Okay, what we're going to do is do a gas valve cleaning on GCP650. This would also be the same for GCH850. The internal components are the same. So first what we're going to do is we're going to start with the gun. We'll take out the current gas valve or gas canister that's in there. And then we're going to use an Allen key and a screwdriver to basically get into the tool. So I have mine already set up in drills, but of course you can use the ones that come with it. So first we're going to start by taking off this screw right here, and that'll allow us access to the top of the gun. Taking off that screw, use a screwdriver just to slightly pry up the top, and so we'll set that aside. And then on the top we'll remove these hex Allen keys. Now underneath each one of these is a washer, so we just want to make sure we don't lose those. I just start by removing the four top, and then I pull it straight off and just save the screws on there like so. Underneath you will see a gasket, black gasket, so it's important that this looks good, so you can kind of inspect it to make sure that there's no issues with that. We need a nice tight air seal, so I set that aside. And here's the gas valve here that we're going to be taking out. So in order to take that out, there's one screw here that's attached to the trigger. That one's tiny, so I just use a hand Allen key to remove that one. And on there you'll notice a plastic bushing. That's what allows that arm to float in there once the screw's tight. So remove that one and set it aside. I then take the air inlet filter box off. So this just pries off this way, and that allows us access to see the gas valve in there. Then you can take anything not to harm it. We're going to push it up, and that just pops it out the top of the gun. And I want you to notice the orientation of the valve when we put it in, that there's an O-ring mid shaft, and then there's an O-ring at the bottom with an index screw here. So when we insert it back in, it goes in obviously this way. So there's the gas valve. For the time being, we can set the tool apart or aside. And then what we're going to do is clean the gas valve. Excuse me, just a minute. So the gas valve comes apart. The first thing I do is, in most cases, this is going to be, and it's normal for it to be covered in dust. Usually it's fine woodworking dust. So I just start by cleaning the outside so we don't get any contaminant inside the valve. This one's obviously brand new, but yours might look quite a bit dirtier. So then we pull the gas valve apart, and you'll see a series of O-rings, and then you'll see just a top chamber that goes on here. Now it's important to clean all of these, and that's really all we're doing here. Is we're not going to be disassembling anything or putting new pieces on it. We're just going to be making sure that everything's clean. So I use Q-tips. Obviously don't use any solvent-based cleaner or it'll eat the O-rings. If you have even just like vinegar and water, or if you have some of these non-abrasive wipes, you can stick the wipe down in there and clean it. So we just want to make sure that's clean. And then, very important, put it on the workbench in the series that you take it apart so that you know how it goes back together. So now what I'm going to do is, this actually comes apart further. So for that, I'm just going to grab a pair of locking pliers. Careful not to apply too much pressure to the shaft because we don't want to damage it. But this just then will unscrew. So you can see it's unscrewing. And what it's going to reveal is a thread. There we go. A thread and a spring. So again, we want to put this on the workbench the way we took it apart. So here we go. So for reference, we have the thread, the spring, and the valve. So again, then we can slide this off. And this is usually where it requires the most amount of cleaning, because this is where it gums up. So if your valve is sticking open, this isn't moving freely. So then again, I just clean it all off. And I make sure that I get inside here and I make sure that this is all clean. And then I can leave it like so. Then the spring is sitting there. Now this comes apart even further. But what I do first is I clean all of this, get a Q-tip in here. This will be probably dirty. Lots of, this is where all the atomized fuel sprays. So we get in there and we clean it all. Make sure that that's clean. And then we can take this apart one step further. This one's tight, so we have to put something in there to hold it. There we go, it just cracked in a good way. So we just unthread that. And that's the actual gas spraying orifice. So that can cause a problem sometimes if the gun is plugged. The easiest way to see if it's plugged is simply put it up to a bright light and look through it and see if you can see a small pinhole through the end. And it should be able to see light coming through. If there is no light coming through, sometimes I just use a nice wooden toothpick and get in there and just agitate it. You can also shoot some air through this end and kind of blow it out that way so that you can get any debris out of there. But most times you should just be able to pick it out if there's anything and just blow it out. Then what I do is in every gun, or if you don't have it, is Super Lube. It's a multi-purpose synthetic grease. You can buy it at Canadian Tire. You can buy it at most automotive stores. Order it online. I also buy it in a big tube. I keep it around in the shop, so I just use it with a brush. And all we're going to do here is lubricate everything as we put it back together. So just going to put some lithium grease on here. I should say synthetic grease, not lithium. And we're just going to roll our fingers over it. Now, the secret here is you don't want to gob it on. You just want to have a nice fine layer. Then what we can do is start putting this back together. So we can put the collar on. We can put the spring on. Our valve, we will screw back into the end of the mixing plenum. And it doesn't have to be wrench tight. It can be finger tight. Then I'm going to screw this assembly back together once it's clean. And again, it just has to be hand tight. Now, if your valve is sticking open or closed, this is usually where it's happening. So you just want to see a nice return action on that. That's usually what causes any jamming of the valve and or not enough fuel, because of course every time this makes this motion, it provides the right amount of vapor fuel to come through the orifice and into the firing chamber. So now we'll just coat the end slightly here, including the white collar, and again just dust it with your fingers just to make sure that it's a little coating, not a lot, and then noting the orientation that O-ring was mid. There we go. Now our gas valve is back together. And all we're going to do now is repeat the steps on assembly. So we'll grab our tool. Our gas valve is nice and clean. Orientation is going to go down with the O-ring here and the O-ring there. And that's actually what holds it in. So we're just going to push it down so that we see the screw location down into where we assemble it. And you can see it visually as you push it in. And then what we're going to wait for here is you're going to feel a snap. So I'm going to push on it. You might even hear it on camera. Okay, so now that little snap, I don't know if you heard it, but we can feel it's completely deeply seated. I'm going to reinstall the safety screw that activates the gas valve. So with this, it's important to just go gentle. You don't need to over tighten this. Just give it enough torque that you know it's going to hold and not back out. And we can open the magazine and we can check that. If you open the magazine, it releases the anti-dry fire, which allows the nose to move up and down. So now we can see that it's moving nicely. Everything's clean. We can put the air filter door back on. And then with this one, I also inspect it just one last time to make sure that it's good. And then it can't hurt to just put a small amount of that same synthetic grease around the lid. And again, less is more here. We just need to have a nice seal, similar to putting on an oil filter on the car. We just put a little around the seal just to keep it nice when it reapplies. I'm going to put this back on the top of the tool the right way. I'm always watching the view on the camera and not the view in front of my face. And then now here, just tighten them up slightly, and like a car tire, go around, tighten it up evenly and slowly all four corners, and then torque it down. And again, because these are steel screws and an aluminum body, we just want it to be tight, not over tight. And that'll seal us up. And then reapply the lid and install the lid screw. And that will be your gas valve removal and cleaning. From there, we can reinstall our gas valve. And basically, because there is no gas in the tool, we're going to prime it. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we know that everything's full of fuel, and then we can cycle the tool. So hopefully that will solve any issues you have with your gas valve. In an extreme case, there's some O-rings on that gas valve that we could replace, but if they all look in good working order, which of course those ones all were, there's nothing to replace. We just did a cleaning. Should that not solve your problem, there is one more valve that's located deeper into the tool, but normally that one isn't an issue. It's the block that the gas valve receives the fuel filter. So basically inside there's a valve that receives this, but normally if it's a constant leak, it would be on that gas mixing valve. Any questions? Thanks for watching.